All right, so we're going to go live in about 5 minutes here. Because I don't need this for anything. I'm sure the video will get, what should we call it, frozen every so often. Not much I can do about that. What's up?
Should work itself out though.
Yeah, I'll just have to refresh every so often. It's not the end of the world. See if it's already freezing. Yep, it's already freezing. Great. Oh well. So let me make sure all the feeds are up then. Check, check, check. That might cause an echo. Damn. Say race against the clock. Connect. Should be connect. Shoot. We have a pen there. It's interesting. So we got that. Restream, Facebook, custom RMTB transcoding enabled, unable to connect. Check, check. What are you looking for? There we go.
Nothing. I don't want to give you more trouble. I have suggestions for later on.
Okay.
Did we check the microphones and everything? Our mics?
Check, check.
Check, check. Right, you want to check your
Yeah.
mic? Make sure it's here. Oh. You want to toss me those headphones too?
What was that?
My headphones on the corner of the table. Just
Where are they doing the mining? Denmark, Norway?
Norway.
Okay, so Facebook's going live right now. Can one of you guys, can you check the Facebook feed real quick? Make
Yeah.
sure you can hear it.
Yo. What it is.
What it is, how? Jesus, dude. Check, check.
I
Check,
don't
check.
see anything on Facebook yet, Kylan.
Let's see here. What do we got
Crypto
here?
Show.
Oh, no, just go to my personal.
Your personal?
Yeah. You can't stream live, believe it or not, from... You have to get, like, what's the term? Authenticated or whatever.
Got it.
Okay.
Audio sounds good from what I can hear.
Check, check. Cool. Oh, shoot. I hope this...
I'll
Check,
lead
check,
off with
check.
Introducing the mining conversation. after
1,
your
2,
intro,
3.
Kylan.
What's up?
I'll lead off with the mining introduction.
Okay,
You-
cool.
you lead off.
Check, check, check. Check 1, 2, 3. All right, cool. Do you have that? Oh. D-Live. Got to log in with Steam. See if I can get D-Live up real quick. How's it going, guys? We're going to be starting in a moment here. Just give us a moment to make sure we got everything set up. Because, as I've mentioned before, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them at us on Facebook or YouTube. We're also in D-Live, which I know is a more rare platform. Thumbnail. God, they asked me for so much stuff here. There we go. That works. Options. Let's see here. What did that sound? Game, learning, new tag, doesn't matter. Go next. Inglés. Go. Check, check. All right. Jackson, can you talk real quick? Let me see.
Check, check.
Cool. You see, I think we're all right there. Restream.
Where can I find us? Or
We're on
should I check
Facebook
somewhere?
and YouTube are the ones
And
that
Periscope
On
and
Twitter.
Periscope
D-Live.
and Twitter and D-Live. I should get on
Hey,
D-Live.
you guys, yeah, see if go talk to the audience real quick while I set things up here.
Hey, audience.
Hi, audience. My old coworker Ashley
secrets you guys
Southwick
wanna
is
know?
watching. Apparently,
Say it again.
my old coworker
What's his
Ashley
name?
Southwick is watching. Apparently, she used to work at Sprint
I'm
with
sorry.
us.
I
or
just assumed,
with me.
I assumed her gender prematurely. I'm sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Can't take
what
you
was it?
anywhere,
What's her name?
man.
Ashley.
Ashley, I'm sorry about that.
I wonder
see if
what
we
you're
can
doing lately, Ashley.
Transcoding enabled. Well, we can skip on D-Live. D-Live's not that great. Ooh, did I say that? I said that live.
Oh no!
Getting us
Actually,
in trouble.
got on Steam the other day and found out I had like $50 of Steam credit that I didn't know about. So
It's a little convoluted at times, isn't it?
right. Then I found out that I could withdraw 6 cents a week from Steam.
Woo! Yeah, they lock you in. All right, let's see here. You guys ready to start?
Yeah.
Get this. Make sure my phone's off. Captain's Council. All sorts of notes. Notes everywhere. Check, check. All right, let me turn this up a little bit. Check. Okay. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Shh. Wow, 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 wow. See if I can get it to work. I can't get it to work. See. Let's see. Refresh. Stop. Now play. There we go.
Welcome aboard to the Captain Crypto Show. Today, we join the Captain's Council to discuss the latest developments in the world of cryptocurrency. Here's your host, Kylan Hurt.
Oh, that's beautiful, Kylan.
Yeah, you like that?
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah, we're adding some animations, guys. Ladies and gents, welcome aboard to the Captain Crypto Show. I am your host, Kylan Hurt, but you can call me Captain Crypto. And tonight, joining me on the Captain's Council is off to my left, we got Maverick.
Yo.
How's it going, Brett? He does business development at our Edge team. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yo.
Yo!
What's going on?
A lot is going on. And off to my right, we got Jackson. How's it going, Jackson?
doing great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been another busy week when it comes to cryptocurrency. It's always a busy week, and I noticed this week, I think one of the big themes is actually some of the stories are like overarching sagas almost at this time, and it's like every few weeks we get an update. A lot of them are related to the government and regulatory bodies, but we're probably going to push those ones off just for a little bit and start off a little bit with mining. Let's see here.
Yeah, so I was taking a look
go
at the
ahead.
stories. You want me to take over for a little bit?
Go ahead.
So the stories that caught my eyes the most were these two out of the U.S. And it starts out with a couple different mining operations trying to get started in different parts of the country. One's in upstate New York, and the other's in Plattsburgh. And they were both attracted to these areas because of cheap power in these towns. And started working with the community, trying to find a way for them to set up some sort of mining operation, which means securing cheap power contracts and area to mine and stuff like that. One of them, the one in New York, got really far along, and they pretty much had all their ducks in a row except for the local municipal power company.
Right.
And they were just waiting on that one approval to come back, and they were ready to get going. And then it came back, and they're like, "No, we're not going to approve this."
Where did they apply? Right, like what regulatory body? Was it like a local?
It's a local municipal power
right,
agency.
some city government thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they came back and said, like, no, we're not going to allow this. If you start mining here, we expect the residents' power bills to go up because you'll be using so much of the energy. So if you're going to do this, we're going to raise the prices on you. So that pretty much took away their main reason for going to that area, is having cheap power. And then the other one was a very similar story in Plattsburgh, but they are actually trying to put a moratorium on mining. I think it said for 18 months or something like that, as they tried to evaluate whether or not it would be a good thing for their town to have mining. So they're trying to outright ban mining in their town for the next 18 months.
This reminds me of the fracking debate.
Why is that? Because it can bring in money sometimes.
Yeah, so fracking, like I guess cryptocurrency mining, was seen as a technological revolution. It really was, especially in the United States and Canada. A lot of oil and gas companies found a new way to basically generate revenue or generate these energy assets and sell them on the market. And then they started going into literally the region you're talking about. Plattsburgh, New
Sounds
York,
so East Coast.
because there's actually a lot of shale reserves around there, and then you just see this dialogue between, entrepreneurs who necessarily don't really care about the environment and or what's going on in that area, and then local officials and environmentalists that may or may not know that everything requires energy and and that this isn't necessarily a bad thing, or that something like. There are costs to fracking, right? There might be some environmental costs, but also a lot of the things that came out about fracking, just like the things that come out about Bitcoin or mining, are from people that just have emotional reactions to it. Because when you actually get into a complicated discussion on fracking, it becomes less and less clear on what you can make like cause and effect on, right? So there's a lot of this stuff, and it seems pretty obvious that the countries and municipalities and states are going to kind of compete against this. The people that try to get rid of it completely will lose, and the people that welcome it in and don't hold entrepreneurs and business people accountable will also lose, right? If you just allow people to come in mining and, I don't know, just basically skirt any regulations that are on the books. But if they engage in conversation, this is quite an asset for any state or county or national government to have within their borders and deploy, use their energy resources and literally turn it into money.
Yeah, I just want to agree with you on that. I think that it is very similar to the fracking debate. But with the fracking debate, there are like externalities. So like costs to the operation that aren't incurred by the operation. So with fracking, you have some pretty bad ones. Like you could get polluted water. You could get earthquakes, even if you're to believe that.
If you're to believe that,
yeah.
I'm skeptical on that.
So,
and,
but
the direct cause and effect isn't as
with mining. Like I don't really see that as such a big deal. I don't think that there are that many negative externalities besides like sucking up the power, of course. But if you have a new business coming to town and using that energy within your borders, you get to tax them, and you just need to make sure that the tax is equal to the cost of having them there, and then you have a new industry that wants to use your region that should be going after clean, cheap energy, and then you get to produce more clean, cheap energy, producing more jobs. I don't see why you wouldn't want miners in your area.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at this point is one of those hot topics where everyone has an opinion. So you're not going to find many people who are like, oh yeah, maybe they can mine here, maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. It's like they're either on one side or they're the other. I feel like people they think or they feel like they have to take a position on it, when the fact of the matter is probably most of them have no idea what they're talking about.
I had some anecdotal or an anecdote. My mother is actually a miner, and
Yeah,
I never
even
told her to do it, and I wasn't very.
She's the one that should be on the show. I don't know why you're on here.
She's just not, she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to talk about it. Love you, Mom. She got involved with a group in South Florida actually that is involved in crypto mining. She mines Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Dash, I believe.
Does she actually do it herself?
No,
or is
no.
it
She's
a
basically.
cloud
I've
mining
actually
operation?
seen. No, they actually have physical assets in the miners in South Florida with a dependable energy source, and it's basically a group where she committed capital and she has specific rigs assigned to her, that have a certain amount of power, a certain amount of she's adding a certain amount of hash power to all these networks and gets a little payout from the group, but they have a pretty big operation.
She didn't check with you or run this by you at all?
No,
just
she
went ahead and
did.
did it?
She did. I told her to be careful. She's a grown woman, so she can do whatever she wants. Because I don't even know. I don't even know where to start on a lot of the mining stuff and necessarily who to trust. But she seemed. I met the group that she was working with, and but it's pretty. It just shows how open the system is. That my mother, who's not a cryptographer or someone interested in distributed systems, but someone who's interested in new entrepreneurial activities, was able to find a group in her local community that is mining cryptocurrencies, pay them some capital, right, and then she gets payouts every month or so to her Edge wallet now that can support all those different currencies. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So before we move on to another story, I want to touch on one more thing, and that is that there are some issues with miners moving into some jurisdictions, and that is if you have some sort of program in place already that is going to give you a subsidy for electricity.
Right.
So if miners move into those areas and start taking advantage of a subsidy that was meant for something else, they're going to completely destroy it. And I think anybody who's building any sort of program like that to try to bring in business with cheap energy that is artificially low is going to get completely wrecked. And I think that is something that is new and hasn't been the case.
What do you mean by wrecked in this situation?
So if you are trying to bring in, say, Amazon, just because that was in the news lately, and they wanted a new headquarters. And one of the things you promised them is, well, we are going to give you some of our tax money in the form of cheaper energy and have that be an artificially low price. Okay. And then miners are like, wait, artificially low price on energy? And they come in and they just suck up all of that energy as fast as they possibly can. Then you're going to get completely destroyed on that tax incentive. So you just need to be aware of that. And pretty much you probably shouldn't price energy anything other than its fair market price. Maybe you could price it above it if you really hate miners and you don't want them to come in. But I think having anything to do with some sort of artificially cheap energy is going to be really a monster, and it's going to destroy you. And I don't know if we want to get into that, but Venezuela might kind of chime in on that sort of topic.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Venezuela in a little bit here. So I am kind of curious, Brett, I know especially for you and I, we've gone to conferences, and there have been times where I've seen the, how would I say it, the community, especially the hardcore community who goes to these conferences. Earlier this year, I was kind of surprised at how many people were actually getting involved in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency mining in the United States. But it sounds like what you're seeing is that there is a little bit of a pushback from legislators. Maybe they're trying to put the brakes on it, at least in some areas.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a mixed response, especially like in the United States. We have this laboratory of democracy with states and counties that have a lot of sovereignty, and ultimately the ones that incentivize entrepreneurs and crypto entrepreneurs to their states will win. And I think municipalities or wherever that have a a clear competitive advantage in energy pricing will, like, at the end of the day, money talks, right? And there's a lot of money to be made, and the politicians just want to make sure they're seen as, making sure that people don't get hurt from this onslaught of entrepreneurial activity. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't really care about the local community, right? None of them. It's all about aligning incentives. So there's very strong incentives to be pro Bitcoin, because you can literally turn energy into money. You're literally deploying excess capacity or whatever to secure this universal ledger, and you get paid in money for it. That people are very bullish on, right? So I think the incentives are just so strong to be, pro mining, especially if you're an energy-rich nation. You just think of like Russia, the United States, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, Norway, which we'll talk about soon. I mean, all of them have a lot of energy resources, and this is just such a perfect way to put them to use.
Yeah, you guys want to talk about the Norway story next? I'm not as familiar with it as you guys are.
Yeah, I think Brett is the most familiar with it, but I just want to say that it's like a perfect contrast to what the U.S. is doing, where the U.S. is trying to ban and tax out Bitcoin miners. Norway seems to be going the opposite direction.
What in the U.S. federal government?
Just like local city governments that we were just talking about.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, the Bitfury announcement, which I always like talking about the mining announcements, because that shows entrepreneurs putting skin in the game, literally putting energy into this, and flocking towards efficient uses of electricity. So, I think what people miss out on that. They're scared. People are scared about proof of work mining, and it'll gobble up all this electricity and cause global warming. Right. I think that's really overblown, especially.
Is there some truth to it, though? I mean, it is.
Well, yeah,
some of that electricity.
I mean, the best lies always have a little bit of truth to them. You know, so like, everything we do has a carbon footprint, pretty much. That's unavoidable, and I think a lot of it comes from just people's general. Like, people just want things for nothing, no energy expenditure, no cost, so they think you set up these systems and, there's no costs or externalities, and that's just not the case. It's all about balancing, it's net benefit, over costs. So I think, Bitcoin is a net benefit, but there's cost to it. But Bitfury is going to get back to the story. They announced that they're...
So who's Bitfury?
Bitfury is
the audience might not be as familiar.
Bitfury is a huge mining operation. I don't know... everything there is to know about them, but they've been in the space for a long time. They mine Bitcoin. I'm sure they mine some other coins. I'm not exactly sure on which ones they do, but they've been in the Bitcoin.
If I could just interject one thing. One thing they're famous for is being the first ones to kind of come up with the idea of having like a mining rig in a semi-truck trailer, and then just being able to roll it up anywhere where they can get cheap power. So a lot of people are kind of... speculate that they've never actually even made one of those, and it's just, but that's kind of what they're kind of known for.
Yeah, that's and they contribute a lot of hashing power, which is just raw energy to the Bitcoin blockchain, which is the feature that makes it safe. And Bitfury literally had a nice PR announcement and photo op with a mayor from Norway who was really excited about welcoming them in and setting up something they call a data center, which is pretty much PR for mining, right?
Euphemism.
And they have a direct link to local energy there, and the energy there is hydroelectric energy, which is completely renewable and has a very small carbon footprint, if any. And I'm not that knowledgeable about hydroelectric energy, but it's like, most people know hydroelectric good, fossil fuels bad. So in this case. And you'll see this more and more with Bitcoin. Bitcoin every 10 minutes has a bounty basically for someone that can find the cheapest source of energy and the most renewable sources of energy, and they get paid for that. So Bitcoin and miners are always going to seek out the cheapest and efficient sources of electricity, and those right now are by far solar and wind. And hydroelectric and something like geothermal are right behind there. So for people that are worried about global warming, I think Bitcoin is actually an incentive to reverse some of those processes and doesn't need to rely on fossil fuels. And part of the reason we don't have alternative energy adoption is because where those sources aren't necessarily close to population centers, right? And you can't necessarily distribute those resources efficiently. That's why
you lose some of the
even though
electricity.
they're actually cheaper and more efficient than fossil fuels. The distribution networks aren't there, and they're not necessarily. But Bitcoin doesn't. It doesn't. That's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin is it doesn't matter that Bitfury's in Norway. They can still pick up my transaction and mine it with cheap hydroelectric power
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they don't have to go. They don't have to mine their Bitcoin near me, where it might be more. It might be cheaper to actually do it with fossil fuels. They can do it right there in Norway, right? And they don't need to be by their customers, which is anyone that uses the Bitcoin network. They can go directly to the source of the cheapest, most energy efficient electricity, set up shop there, and start mining. And they'll have a competitive advantage over people that use something like fossil fuels, which doesn't have. It might have an advantage in the old world, fossil fuels, but in this new world of Bitcoin mining, you can go right to these renewable resources. And I think this will be a boon to renewable, way above anything that government subsidies could do. Bitcoin will do more for renewable energy than any government could possibly do.
Yeah, and one more thing that's kind of on the same lines of that, you're saying like it doesn't have to be in the right location, but it also doesn't have to be in the right time, which is also really important.
Ooh, what do you mean by that?
So the
that
load,
sounded deep. We need
the
to
load of electricity during the day needs to be very high, and so if you're going to be able to, you need to get your renewable energy source to actually peak at the same time that you need all the energy.
Okay.
Whereas you have Bitcoin mining, you can basically just use Bitcoin as a battery and run your energy producing source at full tilt all the time because you can always utilize that energy. So you don't have to worry about having, say,
Like the
wind
peaks and
energy
troughs.
that's not blowing in the day and it's blowing too hard at night and you don't have anywhere to put that energy.
Okay.
You always have somewhere to put the energy with Bitcoin, so you can always utilize
All right, you're saying
everything.
that every 10 minutes you need to expend some type of energy.
Well,
or is that
it's all time, any
it's
time.
always demanded. Is that what you're right?
say
So
you
there's
have-
no lull in.
Yeah,
Got you.
exactly what
Okay.
I'm saying, yeah.
Wow, I didn't even think about that, but that's even better, right?
deep.
It's very deep. No, it is. I think I've always been really interested in energy. I interned a little bit at an energy investment bank with Wells Fargo, and I think
You have a lot of energy.
I wish I had more, but I think the incentives on this are so strong that, like I said before, this will do more than anything that anyone has ever done to incentivize the use, the smart use of renewable resources. Not just a dream anymore. Like entrepreneurs are literally seeking out the cheapest, most efficient electricity sources, and
It's a race to the bottom.
yeah, and then they're going to fund. And people need to keep in mind that 50 to 90% of mining costs are related to power. So this is these mining operations, if they're really smart, are going to really start funding research and development of cheap energy sources, right? So I think the whole thing is just a win-win-win all the way around. And then you saw it's a great photo op for a mayor. Right, just some obscure mayor
They
in
do
Norway.
like those photo ops.
They get a photo op. They're bringing
Kiss a
jobs.
baby.
Right, so Bitcoin is just an amazing incentive system.
All right, so before we move on to the next topic, I just want to close out this mining topic, and I'm just curious what you guys think, because as I'm reading more white papers and hearing more about new projects, less and less of them are using proof of work, or if they are using proof of work, they're using one that is more efficient. I'm curious if you guys think, I'll start with Jackson, do you think 10 years from now, will the majority of coins be using proof of work, in your opinion?
Yeah, I do think they'll be using proof of work. I don't think I'm the best one to try to explain this, but I think that you might want to go out and do some deep dive on proof of stake. I don't think that it's going to be the thing that we move forward on. I think it's kind of just a new buzzword that people want. It's
What, proof of
basically
stake?
something for nothing, as
Yeah.
Brett
Yeah,
was
yeah.
saying. Everybody wants to have it for free, but I mean,
Yeah, I
there's
think
no security without burning
proof
energy.
of work is the anchor, and I don't think any
Right.
chain that doesn't have proof of work I think proof of stake is a very elegant, I guess, solution that you can implement, like something like Decred, which I like a lot. it anchors to proof of work, but there is a staking system.
Right. A lot of hybrid systems right now.
Yeah. But I like fundamentally I'm never going to own like a pure proof of stake coin. I just long term, I don't think that's I don't want my coin to be purely reliant on game theory and incentives. Proof of work kind of, it literally shows you an objective measure of the safety of the chain. And I don't, I'm not a utopian, so I think everything requires some type of energy expenditure, so, proof of stake just kind of, if you're just doing proof of stake, like I probably don't want to own the coin.
Yeah. Kylan, we've been dominating the conversation, man. What do you think?
I am seeing more. I'm open to proof of stake, but I think you're right. People are really scared to take that last step away from proof of work. So I think instead of seeing just pure proof of stake, you're going to see a lot of them where it's like, okay, it's slightly weighted toward proof of work, then it becomes more slightly weighted toward proof of stake, and they're going to keep on. I think
kind of
trying to
Ethereum's
maximize
model, right? Like we're going to do proof of stake eventually, but we're not leaving proof of work until we get it completely worked out. It's going to be worked out. But
I think that's a good instinct that the market has too. It's just like we kind of want to tie the safety of a chain to something outside of the chain itself, which is energy, not just like, people that hold a lot of coins. We rely on their goodwill to kind of, keep the network healthy and safe.
Right. Okay, so I think that's enough on mining. We are going to move on to the next topic in a moment, but I did want to give a little bit of a shout out to some of our audience members out there. Kenton Prescott says he's enjoying the roundtable, big fan of Edge. I'm glad you're a big fan of Edge because a lot of us are working very hard on it. We're making as many updates as we can, so if you guys don't have Edge Wallet on your iOS or Android phone, go ahead to the App Store and check it out. Let us know what you think. Also, Danielle Grossman says, shout out Sal Dog. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, Sal Dog is the truth. Sal Dog is my mom.
Is this
She's a minor. Yeah.
Sal Dog. She's got a better nickname than you do, man. What's up with that?
I mean, she's cooler.
She is cooler. Yeah. That does work.
I don't mind anything. She mines a bunch of the good coins out there.
Yeah, if any of you guys are watching us live on YouTube, we're on Periscope and Twitter and Facebook. I don't think our D live stream is working right now, but if you have any questions about any of the news articles or topics that we're bringing up, go ahead and let us know. We'll try to get to your questions and your comments. And if you have general questions or comments, we'll probably leave those toward the end and then try to handle as many of those as we can because we are interested in what our audience members have to say. Some of you guys are my close friends too, so you always got my ear. All right, so the next story is one that, I'll be honest, it's maybe not the most, how would I say this, thrilling story, but essentially the United States government, specifically the Joint Economic, I believe it is, Committee, came out with a pretty long report. It's something like, I don't know, about 20 pages long or something like that, or at least the part that was dedicated to cryptocurrency.
No, the whole report was like 300 pages, but the cryptocurrency portion was like 20. Yeah.
Right, and this, I believe it was released within the last few days, and I'll read off some of the quotes and, just so you guys can get a little bit of an idea of kind of what the tone was. There's one part where they're saying cryptocurrency might replace national currencies and challenge the U.S. dollar. There were some areas where I guess they mentioned Janet Yellen, who's the, I guess, head of the Fed.
Former.
Former now.
Yeah.
I feel like they go through them pretty quickly. And they, she at one point she had been grilling cryptocurrency for the infamous December 2017 scaling issues. I like how it's like the Irish potato famine. It's like we're all gonna look back decades from now and be like, oh, remember December 2017?
So traumatic.
Lives were ruined, lives were made, billionaires were made. But I was curious, if we take a step back, when we get reports like this, how much do you think they really actually matter? I think is my question, because sometimes reports are good, sometimes reports are bad. Ultimately, it doesn't seem like much action is being taken, and maybe that's a good thing. Some people are saying that the markets have rebounded as a result of the positive rhetoric within this report. And I was curious, do you think a report like this can have enough of an effect, not just on the U.S. markets, but on the international cryptocurrency markets? I'll start with Jackson.
I think that the most interesting part of this is just how quickly the Bitcoin and crypto markets have been inoculated to this kind of news. Like, not that it's bad news, it's just it doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
Like, it's boring. Like 2-3 years ago, this would have been the biggest news ever. It would be insane. But in terms of this report, I read almost the entire thing on crypto part, and it just does not seem like they get it, in my opinion. I know that some people.
Which part do you think they don't get?
It's just still
there's
all
a lot to not
blockchain, not Bitcoin.
I think
blockchain, not currency.
I think I can talk
type.
a little bit about that. Like just
a little
bit. Yeah. Well, okay. So from their understanding and a lot of people's understanding, people think that someone created a blockchain and then they said, "Wait, we can use this for money." It's like no. Blockchain is a second order effect of someone trying to solve a specific problem.
Right.
And the specific problem is the double
Sound
spend
money,
problem.
yeah.
Or how do you create digital scarcity, right, without having to trust any third party? And that is a specific problem for digital money schemes. So money was the original problem. How do you create that digital scarcity online where anyone that's, used a computer or used the internet or any type of knowledge of the things that we use every day, it's very easy to create and share and replicate and copy files.
Right.
So what Bitcoin did is an intellectual achievement that most people don't necessarily understand, and it was to solve a specific computer science problem, and from that, the solution. A blockchain was created to solve that specific problem. It wasn't. They have it back-asswards where it's like, oh, someone created a blockchain and then Satoshi said, oh, let's apply this to currency, and there's all these other use cases.
Right.
And to date, there is no other use case besides money. And they're
starting to come down the pipeline, though. It seems.
Oh, I know. What I'm saying, I've said to date.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. So it to date, it has not been proven that there is any other use case. Now there are. I do believe that there are, but they might be 15, 20 years away after the main chain has been solidified, right? It kind of a backbone. Right. I'm not talking just Bitcoin, but
that's a long time.
Monero. I know. I'm not. Let's just. It took a long time to get to Facebook, right? Or Google, so you could chart back to DARPA, right? So DARPA started in the 70s, right? And it took about 30 years to get to Google. Right, so Bitcoin just started in 2009, right? The early network looks like an early DARPA network. So I don't think 15, 20 years is that out of the question for another application to really arise that actually works. They spent a lot of time talking about all these other applications, especially healthcare and energy grid, right? But it's not necessarily clear how to, the devil's in the details on it. We already know how to do it for money, right? That's what it was for.
Right.
So they think blockchain became, it's like, no, it was the other way around. We solved a certain problem, and because of that, a blockchain was produced to do it for
I want
money.
to agree with
right?
what
That's
Brett
it
said
was
a while ago about this was something that was made to solve a certain problem, and that was eliminating any sort of trusted third parties while trying to defeat the double spend problem.
Yes.
And it does that. The thing is, with every single one of these things, all you have to do is there anywhere where you rely on a third party? If you do, then you completely destroyed the purpose, and you might as well go back to
Yeah, it's
square
like,
zero.
I don't know what is a blockchain at that point.
Yeah,
right?
and I want to know, Kylan, what do you actually think is coming down the pipe that you think will be useful for? Because
All right.
I honestly don't think there's anything.
Here we go. I'm
All right, so there's
I'm generally with, because you love Monero. Monero is a money.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
It is trying to be a unit of account.
Yeah, I don't think Kylan would try to argue that it wasn't.
Okay, so this is literally a quote from this report. So I'm taking them at their face value. This is actually a quote
Face
that came.
value is zero.
Yeah,
Anyway,
with
sorry,
the
go ahead.
politicians. No, you're right. That's fine. But I remember hearing about this a while ago, and I'm going to read out this quote. It says, Walmart and other grocers started testing blockchains for their supply chains. In testimony before the House Science and Tech Committee, someone described how tracking E. coli and other contaminated food took companies and regulators weeks, which from the news that I've seen about E. coli outbreaks, it takes them a while, which left Americans at risk and incurring large costs in food waste. Walmart tested a blockchain platform to track sliced mangoes from farm to shelves and reduce the tracking time from 7 days to 2.2 seconds. Walmart and 10 of the largest grocers in America formed a coalition to implement this technology throughout their supply chains.
That's
That's
for
an
people listening. When you
application.
hear coalition, to me that has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is about
coalition
not having
is
to
like
rely
a group
on
of
a
people that trust
coalition.
each other. Like it's
yeah. So,
That's not the point. The point is they were able to use blockchain technology to track the supply
the
chain.
only
tomato.
thing that means is their supply tracking system right now is terrible, because if you can use a blockchain to do it better, that means that you just have a crappy system.
Yeah,
No,
They're-
no,
they-
that's fine. But that in a way, that's still an application. It's an improvement being made, right?
I'm not sure if it's
There's
an
no way. So the
It's
other
low
thing,
fruit, I guess, but
the other thing we didn't go over that Brett, when he was going on his rant about why crypto is the only reason we should have a blockchain, which is correct in my vision, is that
up until this point, right?
is that
well,
a
we could-
blockchain is intentionally slow and expensive.
There we go.
By design,
no,
it is intentionally slow
that's
and
another
expensive.
point I'll jump
So
on.
if you have to have any sort of trusted third party, then you might as well have a database. It is quick and cheap, and that is what you want.
So there's one, sharing databases might make things more efficient, but they keep bringing up blockchain and efficiency, right?
we
People
all
within
know.
a certain paradigm want to keep making that paradigm more and more efficient. Nothing about Bitcoin is efficient, right? It's almost the opposite of efficient. So
Right.
when people try to equate blockchains with efficiency, then I think they're talking about databases that have look nothing like a open public block. I would think of a open public blockchain. If we're just sharing Excel spreadsheets, I'm not sure if that's like some huge breakthrough or a huge blockchain application.
Dude, and the other thing with this E. coli food chain tracking, it's only as good as data in. So
Exactly. So because
The
it's not
yeah.
natively digital, right? Bitcoin.
okay,
is
you're right. There
natively
is some
digital.
manual input at some point.
Yes.
and so
It's-
you have to trust that manual input. So why have an expensive, slow blockchain?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not there working at the supermarket, so I don't know all the details of it. But this is
What the fuck,
This is someone's testimony.
Oh, and I'll bring up another.
Do you want the kids to get E. coli, Jackson? Is that what this is
that-
about? It's
yeah.
the kids.
Yes.
You just don't give a shit about the
absolutely.
kids, Jack.
Cap-
So we have stuff to talk
Capitalist-
about kids
hate the
later
kids.
on in the
I get
show.
another
actually, so-
point that was brought up in
Go ahead.
the congressional report. So, and this has been, I guess, repeated ad nauseum by a lot of people, where they associate blockchain with immutability, and just because you have blockchain on a piece of paper, and say Walmart has a blockchain, and just because someone says they have a blockchain does not mean it's immutable, right? The immutability comes from, and immutability is still a relevant term, right? So Bitcoin is highly tamper resistant. So there's hardly any 100% in life. So get rid of the Bitcoin could never be possibly tampered with. No, but it's a very, very high cost, almost improbably high. And it's effectively immutable. But that only comes from how you structure the blockchain itself, right? If you change it up in certain ways, that immutability feature might not be there, and it just becomes another database. So the way you set it up matters, and out of setting it up a certain way, you get immutability as an emergent property, not just because you have a blockchain.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing that people do not go down on so hard that is kind of interesting is that you can timestamp things with Bitcoin, and you can actually prove that this data didn't exist or existed when this exact moment in Bitcoin happened. So you can tap into Bitcoin's blockchain immutability
Yes.
that everybody wants that way, but it doesn't.
That's where you only.
yeah,
That's where
you
people,
don't need your
the
own blockchain for
maximalists,
it.
have some decent arguments where you only need one chain.
Yeah.
And I think that might be analogous to monotheism, right? They basically consolidated all these gods into one god. You
Yeah,
only
you only need one.
You only
Why
need
you gotta
one for
remember all these
social
ones?
cohesion, right? And that's where a lot of blockchain maximalists will, or I should say, Bitcoin maximalists, be like, we only need one proof of work blockchain, right, to trust.
Yeah, I want to say one thing about why this is good, though. The longer it takes all of these
Them to
governments
figure it
to
out.
wrap their heads around what is going on here, in the meanwhile, people are building incredible projects that actually do matter at a breakneck speed. It's just going to take them to the point where they have to wait until it's all built before they can try to regulate anything, which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah. And the pace of building is incredible because these public blockchains, in contrast to these blockchains in name only, can leverage talent all over the world, right? In ways that the international banking system can't. Like Bitcoin, some 15-year-old in Bangladesh who's a savant and whatever, can actually contribute code to Bitcoin Core. Or there was actually a 15-year-old yesterday. They put out a report on this might be something that you can talk about next episode, but basically put out a report on the Ledger wallet security vulnerabilities.
Oh, I read
right?
that.
Yeah. And
you said he's 15 years old?
He said online that he's 15. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. Right, but you can imagine it being true, and you can just replicate that example, all over the world. Right? There's tons of talent all over the world that really can't help. The existing system has no way to recruit and incentivize them to help out. But this new system, I mean, like the brain drain is going to be unbelievable and it's already happened in like Silicon Valley and Wall Street. A lot of the top people are just, they're seeing the writing on the wall and going to crypto. And that's just in the United States, but like all over, I'm sure some of the most aware and intellectual Venezuelans are all over this stuff, right? And I actually saw speaking of social media again, a mayor in Venezuela had like, did you see that picture?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this.
Let's start on it. Yeah, so
you know what I'm talking about?
No, I actually did not see that.
You
part.
saw it though.
So this actually pushes past the Petro for a second.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So
Go
we
ahead,
wanted
go
to talk
ahead.
about that
And then
next,
and then
but
we'll go into the Petro.
That's fine.
so it actually bounces back to our earlier topic of mining, and kind of into the Petro. I don't know how to wrap this all in together, but so there's a mayor in Venezuela that started bragging about doing a bunch of crypto mining, which is kind of sponsored now by Maduro, the president of Venezuela, because he's into crypto and the Petro now, but this guy's mining Bitcoin. And so basically what they're doing is doing what they want to do with the Petro and get around sanctions. So they just take the basically free oil that they can't do anything else with. They burn it, turn it into electricity, then turn it into Bitcoin, and they can do anything they want with it. There's no sanctioning Bitcoin. So
unbelievable.
They are actually doing that, and that kind of goes back to like poor incentives for energy. Like Venezuelans intentionally made energy really cheap, completely messed up their economy beforehand, and now Bitcoin miners can swoop in and take advantage of it and just completely screw them up even further, which is kind of crazy. How you get more screwed up.
Do you know
than
more about the mayor at all? But he posted it on Instagram, right?
Yeah, no.
Just him with like a bunch of ant miners, basically, right?
Whirring in the background, can barely hear.
Yeah, and this is a guy who is, I guess, I would imagine every mayor is supportive of Maduro in the sense that they don't want to be deposed or exactly.
Murdered.
And they're mining Bitcoin, and you just see the writing on the wall. Any type of rogue nation or nation in trouble, kind of a tool is useful when someone that is at the end of their, end of the line, no resort, right? When they start using it, they're like, we can actually use this to kind of skirt sanctions. We don't have to create our own, currency, but I guess we'll go into the
one
Petro.
more side note on that story. There's a lot of rumors about miners being confiscated from the people, and so we kind of know where they ended up.
Well, and I've heard they're like, "Oh, this is treasonous."
They probably confiscate it and then use it, right?
Oh no, for sure.
That's what's
that's the name of the game.
Exactly.
Pirates of a new type, I suppose. So obviously some of the bigger news, and this is actually, I feel like this is a little bit more not big. What's the term I'm looking for? This is I feel like this is a first, and that's that Donald Trump and his administration have banned United States residents and citizens from buying the Petro. So I guess I'll start off with Brett. I mean, you're going to have to put off that big purchase that you were planning on doing, right?
I was such a huge supporter before he did that.
Where are you going to put that money instead? You know what I mean? Maybe you'll just find a way around it. You really want those Petros.
I actually met someone in, where did I meet them? Dallas, that was planning on buying the Petro.
I think I remember you talking about that.
They're from South America, and they were actually looking to buy it. I don't know if they're a U.S. citizen, but I know they have some connection to South America. And so there was actually, did they do a sale yet? I actually don't really know.
So they are.
They did
they're taking the money. Yeah, they're taking the money, and they're not. You don't get the actual tokens until
and the token is
April
not on
May.
Ethereum. It's on NEM, which
NEM.
a lot of people don't know about. But it's actually been like the top in a top 10 cryptocurrency in terms of market cap, which is basically kind of meaningless in a lot of different ways. But it just shows that they're I mean, they have a lot of units out there. There's a certain price for them, and there are large bag holders of NEM, and there's some type of platform that you can launch a token on top of. Right?
So I'm kind of curious. This is one of those things where it's like an unstoppable bullet hits an unmovable wall. It's like on one hand, the Venezuelan government, our libertarians are no fans of the Venezuelan government.
No.
But on the other hand, you have Donald Trump kind of trying to tell you what to do. Like, is this something where you're stuck in the middle? You got one person, you got one side that's shitty, the other side's shitty.
Well,
I almost thought twice about it. Like, you know what? I don't like Donald Trump telling me what to do. Maybe I will buy a Petro.
yeah, right. I could see a lot of people, at the New York Times buying the Petro, trying to buy it now. I just think just scratching away all the other, I guess, the emotionality of it. Just the headline is fucking incredible. Donald Trump as president, which most people can't believe is even to this day that's even real. But people who have watched Idiocracy think it's very real and very predictable.
Right.
But Donald Trump, U.S. president, puts out an order banning cryptocurrency, the Venezuelan cryptocurrency. If that doesn't show that we are in the fucking future, I don't know what does. And it's a weird future.
Yeah.
Right. And it kind of highlights the power of Bitcoin, where or I should say crypto in general, where now these nations have a bargaining chip or a tool that they can kind of, because the U.S. basically uses the dollar as a weapon, right? It's been weaponized for at least decades now, and we've been able to tilt a lot of things in our favor in terms of foreign policy, trade, whatever, because we have the global reserve currency unit of account. And this is just another example of how fucking crazy this world is now. And say let's extend this to like Russia, right? There's like a current red scare in the United States. If we did anything that I guess a lot of people on the left now want to do towards Russia, I mean, I think that would just supercharge Putin's embrace of cryptocurrency and blockchain in general. And keep in mind, Russia has the most energy assets in the world.
Yeah.
Right. People don't really realize that. I mean, it's a monster of a country in terms of like raw physical assets.
Right.
And if we even start walking in that direction towards significant sanctions that a lot of people on the left want to, it will just speed up the adoption of cryptocurrency by Russia.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it is something where I feel like lately I've been noticing the United States has been doing pretty well in the realm of cryptocurrency. Like
we're leading the way.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't even think anyone would even be trying to do any mining, and now, I mean, okay, yeah.
My mom's mining.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly my point.
Love you, Mom.
The same way that the United States was the leader with, I guess you could say, the internet, with cryptocurrency, it seems like they are leading the way, at least for the time being, which is a good thing, right? I mean, as a citizen of the U.S., we would rather have those jobs coming here than somewhere else.
And the cynical view is it helps. The reason it's okay is because it helps rich and poor people. So this is another asset that rich people can use to store things off. I guess out of the old system, avoid taxes, whatever.
Right.
But it's also an asset you can use to avoid a bad government that is trying to tax you unfairly.
I do like what the U.S. is doing in terms of going after these ICOs, right? Like, if you're fucking security, you need to register. A lot of people are kind of just, very flippant about it and, just trying to raise tons of money. And they're not really clear. Like, what do you get for this token? It's not really used for anything.
Right.
Right. And I think, I guess they're doing a good job of not really going after these distributed, these decentralized currencies, but they're actively looking into these ICOs, and I think they announced that there's literally a couple dozen cases
that
or
they
so
are
that
actually
they're
pursuing.
And I think that's perfectly reasonable. That's your kind of job as a regulator, to stamp out scams.
Yeah, it does make you wonder which ones they're going after. Hopefully, they're so crappy that I never came across them. Right?
I feel like
Ethereum.
I mean, Ethereum.
We're gonna get some comments on that.
People were talking about how Bitcoin is the least likely to come under scrutiny from any of these, like something called the Howey test, which is basically a test that
for securities
tells you whether or not something's a security.
Bitcoin never made anybody.
But
any
Bitcoin's the most
promises.
organic of them all, right? It was really a pure play. pure technology play. And obviously there was people that were thinking of gains, but it wasn't, Satoshi himself was basically kind of flippant about it. Oh, you guys might want to pick some up if it ever catches on. But it was there's nothing more pure than the BTC blockchain. And I think the SEC or the U.S. government in general hasn't been that, antagonistic towards it at all. And I think, yeah. And I like you said, does it affect what's going on? I think it does in terms of U.S. market price, because people they recognize the power of the U.S. government.
Right.
And a lot of people do take their cues from that. For people like us, we don't really give a shit what the U.S. government has to say, other than for our podcast,
Right.
Because we don't think they can stamp it out anyways. But it shows people that are kind of hesitant that the U.S. government really isn't being that aggressive towards it. They're
Yeah.
not trying to go after your Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think they realize that it will bring money and it'll bring jobs in. And honestly, even if some of them don't get it, maybe there's some in the government that actually are making money off of it. So that's a good thing, is when you have tech that's making money, all of a sudden everyone's a fan,
Yeah.
They'll look the other way when there's stuff that they don't like. So we do have some more stories here. I don't know too much about the headline, other than the headlines here. Something about illicit content on a blockchain.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
So I kind of know about this one. So it's always been kind of like a technical attack that everybody knew was possible. Not a technical, a social attack that's possible. And that is that the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, stores transaction data, but it can store any kind of data you want. As long as you pay the fee, you can store any data you want on there. So for years and years, there's been code on the blockchain, that even poorly written code that doesn't even execute. But you can go back. Every single person who has a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain has a copy of that code. There's messages in the blockchain. There's any type of data you want on the blockchain and can be there. And it's always been known that somebody could put something on the blockchain that you're not allowed to have. I think the first one that came up was the picture in Tiananmen Square. How do you say that?
Tiananmen Square.
Yeah. So it's like that picture of a guy blocking
Tank
tanks
Man.
in China, Tank Man. And it's a legal photo, or you're not allowed to have it in China. And so somebody put that on the blockchain just to kind of troll the Chinese government.
Right.
So now anybody that has a copy of the blockchain in China is breaking the law.
Right.
So you kind of have to run that risk. And then recently, it's kind of jumped back into the news because somebody actually finally did do it in a way that people know about and put child pornography on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, so now everyone running a node, which is basically everyone that has a copy of
I have
The
child
blockchain
porn on my
the
computer.
entire blockchain.
Yeah, they all have child porn on their
You
computer
are you're actually directly storing it.
There's a part of me that wonders, obviously I can get a little technical, but so like, did they encode like a JPEG, or like, is it hashed to a file that's somewhere? Or?
Yeah, I know that it's actually on the blockchain. It's not a pointer.
Most of the stuff is
But there's actually
like
both.
links
There's
or-
links
there's
and
mostly-
there's
yeah.
actual images as well. So I actually have I think this is kind of an interesting thing. Like, I don't think
Yeah,
it's
no, it is
actually going to
interesting.
happen. I don't think
No one's gonna
anybody's going
crack
to
down,
say
yeah.
that it's not illegal. But there's two things that I think are interesting about this. One is I was trying to come up with an analogy, something that is the same. And I don't think there is. I think this is a unique thing to Bitcoin. So, like, say you spray
Bitcoin-
painted this onto a park wall or something like that.
What, spray painted child porn or
Yeah,
the-
yeah. You spray
okay.
painted some illegal image. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
say
yeah.
child porn all day,
In
so I'm
a-
just going to say illegal
Okay.
image. So they spray painted some illegal image on a public park. So are you going to be a criminal for being in that park and potentially seeing that image? I don't think anybody would say that, but it's not the same because you can delete that image. You can go and paint over that image, and that's what we
Right.
It's
do.
not an immutable ledger.
Yeah, so
Right.
I don't think that there is. That's always something that's interesting to me, is when Bitcoin makes something possible that literally is not possible in any other way. That's how I know it's
Yeah,
a unique and interesting technology.
I think that where people that are fanboys like ourselves have to take pause, and I've talked about this before. There's like there's just rampant utopianism in Silicon Valley and technology in general, and it's my opinion that it isn't necessarily like technology is just a tool. So as long
Right.
as there's people out there that suck and are shitty people, Bitcoin can be used in dangerous ways, and
shitty
that's
things,
the
yeah.
cost of it, right? All this is about net benefit, So what Bitcoin does is allow individuals to take that and just kind of take that next step, right? Like the printing press does, right? In a lot of different ways that we've talked about. But it also, just like the printing press can be used to disseminate child porn, right? Just like the Bitcoin blockchain does. But
Illegal images.
People trying to shut it down for that reason are really missing the larger picture. But people do need to keep in mind that all this stuff will be used, because it's so useful, it will be used by the some of the worst in society. And that actually gives it, I guess, that gives it some, I don't know, how do I say it? It shows its utility when criminals are using it, because they basically are at the they're looking for anything they can to use to really further their means, and it's up to all of us to be good people, use the tools judiciously, and think about the ethics of what you're building, right? And a lot of people in tech, like Facebook is facing, they've built this monstrosity that's not necessarily ethical.
Yeah, what you were saying about like how criminals are the earliest adopters, that's because they have the highest profit margins.
Yep.
They have the highest reason to reach out and try to find an advantage of other people, because they can actually profit from it.
They don't have
easiest,
theories.
the readiest.
They're just they're looking for tools that are useful now.
Yeah. And then so I wanted to say one more thing about this, and I think it's kind of an interesting test of Bitcoin. Like, I think that this is maybe the universal, like, easiest to agree on thing for everybody, that child porn is bad and we should stamp it out in any place we possibly can. So that is probably the strongest force, or one of the strongest forces in the world, that should say we should edit the Bitcoin blockchain and take that out. Like, you should be able to get everybody on board with that
Consensus
but
on it,
yet you can't. I just don't think there is any stronger incentive for us to try to edit the Bitcoin blockchain, proving it's true.
Are you saying that
immutability.
we can't get it out? We can't, even though everyone could agree to get it out, we wouldn't be able to.
I just don't think we can actually get people to agree.
Well, yeah, like
if there was something you could get people to agree on, it would be this. And you can't get people to agree on this. There's nothing else stronger than this.
Yeah. Got you. I mean, I would say that this is an opportunity. Since it's an immutable ledger, this is an opportunity to find the people or entities or organizations that put it up there.
That's what I was
Right,
wondering.
like
it's
I didn't
difficult.
Yeah, if they're really dumb, maybe you could find them.
that's what I'm. Okay, but right, like not every criminal is really smart, or what. And there are a lot of I guess startups and organizations that are looking constantly at
Blockchain
the
analytics.
looking at the chain.
I think you're completely
seeing
right. I think we should all support
it's
a good
always
faith effort to find
it's
these
always
people.
there. So in the bad is it's always going to be there, but the good is it's always like there might be new tools that come up that allow us to kind of track where it came from, or why it was put there. Who knows? I mean, a state actor could have put that there, right? Like to undermine, whatever the integrity of the chain, or to have some PR story.
Dude,
right?
on a completely separate story, it's like the most terrifying attack in the world, just without Bitcoin involved, just to put some child porn on somebody's computer without them knowing about it and then ratting you out. That is terrifyingly scary. Like, that is hard to...
Yeah. Have you? How often?
One way
How
of
often does
frame-
that happen? God,
No,
now
it
I'm
happens mostly
making
in
me
spy
scared of them.
thrillers, but...
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually heard of stuff like that happening in real life, where there's I don't remember how they got it on their thing. I don't know if it was a targeted framing thing, but
I would like to talk.
It is terrifying.
I would
though.
actually like to hear from a lawyer on. I'm running a full node. We know that this has. Now we know, or according to certain reports, that there's some type of links to child porn or child porn itself on the blockchain, whatever that means. And what does that mean? Is there anything that the U.S. government can do about it, or maybe international criminal organizations? But like I said, I think it's. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that these people could be caught, right, on
I
an
don't think so
immutable
either.
ledger
These days. Yeah.
right? Like, tools are getting better and better, and people think, like we said before, they think Bitcoin's anonymous. It's not. It's pseudonymous.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
There are things that you can do to trace things back and kind of create a picture of who it might be. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So let's hope there aren't too many more attacks like this. At least we have this kind of out of the way. So it's like, okay, well, if it happens again, well, it already happened once. I guess
So we'll be sensitized to it. It's like now people realize
Yeah, it's like what's the incentive for like law enforcement to crack down on someone with a full node in the future when there's already been stuff on the blockchain for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to look at the silver lining. Obviously, this is not the best, not the greatest story, right? Not the sort of story you like to hear. You don't like to see Bitcoin and
or child porn
bad material.
Or I
in
mean,
the
we're going to
headlines
see it
together.
come up with. I mean, in the future, I mean, we're going to see terrorist organizations use it, right? Because it's fucking money, right? So we're going to see a lot of Bitcoin is always going to be hated. Yeah. Always, just like money is hated in general.
Actually, I don't think that's true. I think that it's going to become common sense or commonplace, just like the internet was completely demonized, and now it's everyday
I'm
technology.
saying that's reversing though. Like there's a growing sentiment. I agree that but since this whole Trump Brexit thing, you have Cambridge Analytica, Facebook, Google, NSA. There's a growing tide of people that have never trusted the internet and don't like what it's produced. I'm not on their side.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is something like Bitcoin will always be attacked and ridiculed and not fully understood and blamed for things that people do.
I think we're in for that for a long time.
Yes.
And I think you might be right in the fact that because it's money, it might have even more hate than the printing press and internet did,
like
and email.
People say
but
the repeated quote is "money is the root of all evil," which I completely disagree with.
Yeah, it's
but
dumb.
but that is a thought. And then if Bitcoin is money, then Bitcoin is really the root of all evil. You know. So Bitcoin.
I think I
always
still
be,
predict though that it's going to become commonplace. I don't think 10 years from now
I agree.
anybody's going to.
I agree, but you're gonna have people like Thomas or not. Paul Krugman, Norio, right? You're gonna have a
They're
lot
dead
of
by
people.
Were you
now.
going to say Friedman?
That
Is
just
that-
well, he might hate it too. I don't know, but if you work at the New York Times, you probably don't like it that much.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Jackson, our native Bitcoin enthusiast, has a little bit of news about Lightning Network. Obviously, that's been in the news on and off for quite a while now. A lot of people are looking forward to it. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what is going on there?
That's high honors if I'm the Bitcoin enthusiast at this table.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. But yeah, so I've been talking about Lightning on this show pretty much since the first time I was been on here. I like to give an update here and there. And we have some really big news lately. So when we last talked about it, probably, the Lightning developers were, okay, we have this software out here, but it is completely beta. Do not use it. It will lose you money. And they have flipped from that stance to, okay, we're releasing this and go out there and get them, and we're getting this thing going soon. So they actually released their software that is ready to go on the actual Bitcoin chain.
On the mainnet, right?
On the mainnet instead
No
of the
testnet.
testnet. And it is still in beta.
Jackson, I have a question.
Yeah,
What
go
is
ahead.
the technical distinction between testnet and mainnet?
Mainnet's real money.
Yeah,
That's
mainnet's
kind of
real
how
money.
I
So
put it.
testnet is just
Okay.
a
Yeah,
fake Bitcoin
I should
network.
know that, but I just like, what's the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a fake Bitcoin network for... It works the exact same as Bitcoin, but their coins have no value.
Gotcha.
So you
Right.
can
Gotcha.
test it out on there. So they're switching over to using mainnet. It's still in beta. They still say be careful, but they're also like pressing people to build apps and use it as much as they can and get things going. And they only have a what's it called? Command line version of the software out right now.
You pretty much have to be a somewhat technical
yeah.
developer to really use this stuff.
Yeah, but
Which is good. Which
That's
is
how it
good,
starts
yeah.
off usually,
Exactly.
though.
Well,
They
yeah.
are hinting that they are releasing their mobile wallet soon, which will be like
Damn.
actual GUI. easy to
I
use.
literally just downloaded on one of our Android phones, Eclair.
Yeah, I have that too.
Did you try it out
So
today?
yeah, that was
I just
the
checked. I
that was
didn't
the
really
next
do any
thing I was going to lead into.
What exactly is Eclair?
Eclair is a
Donut?
light client wallet
That is
for
true.
your phone for Lightning.
It's a Lightning wallet, and
Yeah.
it's built by a company out of
This
France.
is mobile, or this is like
It's mobile.
laptop?
Mobile
Yeah,
and
mobile.
Android.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was on Android.
Cool.
While we're talking, we could send transactions back and forth on Lightning
Oh,
Network.
nice.
Now we could.
But anyway, I wanted to say one more thing. Yes, the actual LND client that's command line only right now is complicated and it's only for developers, but I figured it out. and I sent my first Lightning payment, and it was awesome. I'm so
Really?
freaking excited about it.
I've
yeah.
thought
on
about
mainnet?
doing it.
I've
It
done
sounds-
it on.
mainnet, yeah.
I've opened up channels because I downloaded the Zap Wallet by Jack Mallers. Great job, Jack. I know you're not watching, but it's good work. But I did you work with the Zap Wallet at all? Or did
I
you-
have downloaded Zap Wallet before, but only testnet.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
think they
yeah.
have.
I don't think they have a mainnet, but I was
Yeah.
working on testnet, like opening channels, close,
Yeah,
that type of
it's-
stuff.
It's really cool.
You can see the beginning of
Zap
something,
Wallet.
and you could see the whole network, right? That which is pretty. I mean, there's nodes everywhere, all over the world. It's pretty awesome to see. But sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, that was basically all I want to say. Is just that it's moving forward. It seems to be what I said a couple of weeks ago. I think that it's actually coming true. Is that we don't have to move slowly like we do with Bitcoin changes. We can move fast and break things with Lightning on the
Gotcha.
second layer, which is something I'm really excited about. And it seems to actually be moving as fast as I can.
Yeah, I haven't. There's actually a story on moving fast and testing things. Apparently, I read a few tweets from pretty prominent developers and Bitcoin users that a lot of nodes were being
DDoS, right.
DDoS attacked, which is
on
actually
where? On Lightning
On
Network?
on Lightning
mainnet.
Network. Yeah. So, well, it's actually and people that I get in the open source community, especially in Bitcoin, which is an adversarial environment.
Right.
The developers actually like that, right? It's like,
Do it
okay, we're
now.
getting tested
Yeah.
early, right?
Yeah.
And someone's attacking it, and they don't know who necessarily is attacking it. It might be
Could take guesses,
It could be a
right.
white
You
hat
never know.
that's like testing things, or some
False flag.
yeah, or a black hat that just wants to fuck things up.
Right.
But it's it's in, like you said, it's in mainnet, and someone's attacking it, and that's only going to make it stronger. But I think I saw today that there was like 3,000 nodes online when I had my Zap wallet open, and
the
there's
stat I like to look at is how many bitcoins are actually in channels, and we're up
How
to
much
like
liquidity is on the
3.2
network.
bitcoins in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Lightning Network or something like that. So
3.2 Bitcoin. So it's probably pretty cheap right now to open up channels, or
oh yeah, so
'cause that's that one
comes
thing that
down
people
to
always
what
complain
Bitcoin
about, right?
fees are right now,
Right.
Just on the main Bitcoin network, and they're cheap. So I was opening and closing channels, like 15 of them, just trying
wow.
to get it figured
I'm
out.
really
And it costs
excited.
like a cent per transaction.
I'm really
per
excited to
channel.
get Lightning wallets in the Edge app. For
Yeah, are you guys working on that? Can you guys make
I mean,
that announcement?
I'm not working on it, but I've talked to our blockchain dev, Eleron, who is a huge Bitcoin maximalist. Loves it. He's our blockchain dev, and he's excited about Lightning. He's working on some other things right now, but this is definitely something that we would. I would. This is something that we need to implement if it works at all.
Yeah,
which I think
I
it
think
will.
that this is going to be
There
the future
are-
of mobile wallets,
there,
at least.
there are definitely some details that need to be worked out in terms of user experience, and the devil's in the details on this. But the way that I'm thinking about it is, the main, the Lightning wallet is your checking account, right? And you load it up, and you load it up with, a couple $100 maybe, and you can use it, instantly anywhere that accepts Bitcoin. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I'm really excited. I'm much more excited about Lightning than any like other coin out there, so to speak. It's definitely the next stage for Bitcoin in terms of mass adoption and just processing payments from one transaction on the blockchain. You can create thousands,
Infinite.
millions, ostensibly infinite transaction from that one.
So what do you think is the strategy? I mean, there's probably no clear consensus necessarily, but so do they want to increase the block size once Lightning Network's ready to go? Because that way opening the channels hypothetically would be relatively cheap.
Yeah, that's going to be a debate going forward.
Yeah.
But if you work out the math, like for a good population of the world to be able to open one channel per year, which seems relatively conservative,
Right.
we'd need like 100 megabyte block. So you'd have to imagine that that's kind of in the pipeline, and I don't think that it's really off the roadmap.
Right.
But I think that they're going to be more innovative ideas for how to condense the data that we put on the blockchain, and I think all of those will be.
What do you mean the math? You said
Yeah.
can you back that up? It's an interesting
So
thought.
scaling the Lightning Network up to the entire world using it.
Okay.
Just as a,
yeah.
And then you want to open and close channels every so often on the Lightning Network. Just if you want to onboard yourself, you have to open a channel. And then if there is some breakdown in the network, you might have to close your channel. So you have to be able to do some opens and some closes, which each take a Bitcoin transaction. So saying that everybody in the world needs one Bitcoin transaction per year, then you have to have like a 100 megabyte block.
One on-chain transaction
Yeah.
per year.
For everybody in
Yeah,
the world.
and I think
to-
one transaction is very conservative. I think in reality, you want to be able to
Have like a few or
manipulate your
something.
channels a little bit more,
Right.
as well as do off-chain transactions just for like bigger purchases, like a house, a car, something like that.
The thing about that is I'm imagining, and the way a lot of the developers have described it, and if they're done right, users will not have to manually do any of that. Where it'll just be, if done right, all that'll be abstracted away, and it's just you basically press some buttons and swipe, and your wallet is loaded, and there's some software in the background that wallets like us will basically automate, the opening and closing of channels.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expect. It seems like there's going to be a significant amount of work that'll need to be done on
Yes.
the user interface and user experience layer. Which I'll be honest, in cryptocurrency, that's an area that's kind of been neglected. I feel like there are some apps and stuff out there that I think have good user experiences, but the
Like
majority
Edge?
of them don't.
You talking about Edge?
Yeah, and like I know some people hate on Coinbase, but if I go on their app, like I know what buttons to press. It's pretty clear.
Yes.
But there really aren't that too many.
They're cheating though. They have
That's
a
true. They're
centralized
off-chain
service.
stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely not comparing
But
apples
you're
to apples.
completely
but
right. It is a much better user experience, and we have to get there or better for this actually to take off.
Right.
That's where the tension between centralization and decentralization, where the centralized services will tend to be easier to use, where the
Right.
decentralized services will be more open and accessible and
More
maybe
resistant.
freedom enhancing. Where you tend to change. I feel like efficiency and freedom kind of are almost opposites in a lot of different ways. The more efficient you are, the less free you are to do other things. Or Coinbase does a really good job of streamlining things, but you're not really interacting with the Bitcoin network. You're interacting with Coinbase servers.
So I'm curious, Jackson, do you think since there are other cryptocurrencies coming out, some of them even looking to implement Lightning Network themselves, or excuse me, on their own chains, do you think that's giving the Bitcoin developers a little bit more proverbial fire under their ass? Or is this something where, have they always been as, how would I say it, not conservative as they are now? Because you're saying that they're a little bit more open to breaking things, or is that because it's the second layer, it's kind of optional?
I don't think so in that degree. I think a couple of points on there is one, that the Lightning Network will be chain agnostic. So all the coins that have basic smart contracting abilities will be able to take advantage of the same Lightning Network that the Lightning developers are building now. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is, I think that once the Lightning Network is working well and ubiquitous, you will take away that critique of Bitcoin, that it's slow and expensive and hard to use. And I think without that, to kind of rally on and try to like go get people to join a new cryptocurrency because Bitcoin's slow and expensive and it doesn't work very well. Without that, I think a lot of the crypto coins are going to fall, and it'll be harder to get new ones started. So
Yeah, that's been a huge narrative for a lot of them. Is just like, oh, we have so much throughput, and most people don't understand that there's probably a cost to that easy solution to throughput. And
It's
Bitcoin has
centralization.
gone it's almost it's like a much more elegant. I've bought into the second layer solution, right? Like, just to me, I don't know if I'm not as advanced as some other ones that don't believe in it, but a lot of the arguments that I've seen against Lightning don't really add up, and a lot of the people that are building it and really understand it, I mean, they've convinced me that it's kind of the way forward. But what is it called? I think, what is it? The block size will always be a contentious issue because it's it's just an arbitrary parameter that it's really hard to know what exactly the right limit is. And
Yeah,
everyone
completely
has
agree.
their theories, and it'll always be contentious. But I think a lot of the more reasonable people have advocated for on-chain and off-chain scale. Like there is no, you just put all your horses, or all your bet behind one horses. You spread it out, diversify your solutions. But Bitcoin Cash is really going to push the limit on on-chain scaling.
They're doing another hard fork to. I really don't want to talk about it, but they're hard forking again to increase their block size again when they're using less than 0.5% of it, whatever they're using now. Like nobody's using it, and they're still increasing it. I don't understand what the point of that is. I don't go and talk about them. I do want to talk about though that Monero has talked slightly in the past about trying to alter Monero to be able to use a Lightning Network. I haven't heard anything about that recently.
Why can't they? Do you know any?
I don't know the in-depths of Monero. Maybe Kylan knows better than I do.
Just
but
right
they
now
don't have those basic smart contracting abilities that you'd need. You need to have multi-sig, which I don't think they have multi-sig. That's one. And then you also need to have some sort of time-delayed smart contracts. And I don't know if they have that or not.
The hash time lock. I forgot what's the HTLC.
Hash time lock verify.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the past, I remember early on, maybe a year ago or more, some of the leadership within Monero seemed a bit more against second layer solutions. But I think as I remember it, it used to be that every transaction was not private, but they decided to turn it on so that every transaction is private by default. And by doing that, they increase the footprint of each transaction, which has caused, during the last year or so, it's caused the mining fees for Monero to be a lot. I think they might be the biggest, or at least one of the largest out of all the cryptocurrencies, which, privacy costs a bit, but I think maybe they didn't foresee it being this big of an issue. So you've seen the rhetoric around second layer scaling solutions become quite a bit more, they're a lot more open to it now, and it's at the point where they're actually openly talking about using a Mimblewimble sidechain. I think is it sounds like that's what the plan is.
This shit's getting intense.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that sort of solution, from what I understand, is still more than a year away. So it's something where there are little kind of stopgaps on the way there, but I don't know if that's considered Lightning Network though. That's just a different second layer solution.
Yeah, that wouldn't be Lightning Network, but it strikes me. I think that the same capabilities you'd need to make a sidechain would also be the same capabilities you would need to use the Lightning Network.
What would make something second layer? Just that it only uses the bottom layer in the event of a dispute?
I would think that you can cut out.
Would that be the definition?
That's a pretty good description.
Right, because it takes it off chain, so you can use a network on top, right? And you don't have to use all the
because you only have the settlement transactions, so you can cut out the middle stuff. Which is that's why the thing is with Mimblewimble, that's exactly how it works. Is it's I don't remember if it's range proofs or if it's confidential transactions, but you can have a bunch of transactions, and then all they care about is whether the sum of them is correct. So you can cut out a bunch of the middle transactions. So it sounds like it'll be a good solution. I don't know if that's technically considered Lightning Network though, So some of that might depend on the implementation, which is still like over a year away. But yeah, there's some exciting stuff happening.
Is there any more question from our packed audience?
Not right now. It looks like my feed's having some issues, but I did have one more topic I wanted to cover, just really briefly. So I'm curious if you guys think that, because in the news people are saying, okay, Facebook's banning cryptocurrency ads, Google's banning cryptocurrency ads. Do you really feel like that was how would I say? Do you really think that was the stimulus for the price going back down? Because to me, I'm thinking to myself, granted, I work in the industry, but I've never even looked at the ads for like cryptocurrency, really.
Yeah, I actually messaged my friend at Google.
Sometimes I
sells
see
ads.
Ty Lopez wants to teach me about Bitcoin, and that's about it.
I guess I don't really see him either.
You guys don't see the ads? I see nothing but ICO ads and Ty Lopez.
On what specifically?
YouTube, Twitter are probably the worst offenders.
Yikes!
Yeah. I haven't seen any ICO stuff on Twitter, like
really?
Sponsored stuff.
Seriously,
I have not.
I must be in a much different targeting group than you because it's all I see all day.
And I'm like
day.
deep in crypto Twitter, so
yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know.
Maybe you have other interests that also target you, and so you get those ads, and I just only have one
I
interest.
don't really get ads. I know what I'm thinking. I don't get I don't see promoted anymore in my feed. But I will say I saw a lot of crypto stuff a couple months ago on Facebook when it was like the James Altucher stuff. I saw that all the time. But they're just trying to. I understand why they're doing it. It's unfortunate that like Bitcoin gets into these cryptocurrency conversations. I don't even want to call it a cryptocurrency anymore. Because like you have all this shit around Bitcoin,
Right.
or not just Bitcoin, but like things like Monero or Zcash or some actually good projects, Decred, good projects that are doing pretty good things and have a pretty good idea of what the trade-offs are of what they're doing. But it seems like Google and Facebook and Twitter are just trying to get rid of all these scams, right?
Yeah,
and
I think that's completely.
I mean,
correct.
there's
they
just-
need to get rid of them because they are.
I don't mind it at all.
I don't really mind it either, and they're private platforms, so I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't really
Yeah.
care one way or the other.
As far as the price, though, I feel like that Google announcement came out so long ago. I don't
And
feel
it gets
there's been
buried.
the Google, the Facebook, and the Twitter one. And I think if that was really hitting the price, I think you would have seen like more direct spikes during
Right.
those times.
I think
I think it's the government's cracking down on ICOs that are.
and a lot of these bag holders being like, "What the hell am I holding?" Right? Like, So yeah,
They all know
that's
exactly
sure.
what it is, and it is awesome up until it starts going down, and then they don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I've seen that meme where it's like people they start off in Bitcoin and then they get all excited and they get all these alts, because they hear about blockchain and all these other just not just Bitcoin, they get all these other ones, and then they're like, they get rid of that bag and maybe they just left with like 5, and then by the end of it they just have Bitcoin because they realize that's like really the the only one.
It
But-
is kind of nice seeing that some of these newer ones that kind of experimental don't even have like wallets, like they're just kind of slowly their
Dying.
market cap, like they're slowly dwindling,
Yeah.
they're falling down, which is what I think that's like what a lot of us expected, right?
Yeah.
So it is kind of, you do feel kind of vindicated, and it's like, the top 5 starting to look a little more familiar,
and people are
top
like,
10.
people are like, God, I can just stop doing what I'm doing, launch an ICO, and be a millionaire.
I saw someone had like a post on Reddit where they're like, all right, man, I think I'm out, man. Like he bought like Ryblox for like 10 cents like last May, right? And then it went up like who knows, like 100-fold.
Yeah.
Then it went down to 50-fold. And he's like, dude, I don't know, man. I think I need to get out, man. It's like, bro, you've been in this for like not even a year.
Yeah.
Like, was that what we're at here? Like,
Well,
okay,
yeah.
fine,
100%,
get out.
That's
See ya.
where we have like the attention span of a fly.
But it's like, where else are you gonna put it? Like, okay, if you want something really stable, fine, go buy some land or something. But otherwise, like stocks, I feel like I don't. I'll probably never own an actual like publicly traded stock. I just don't see it. Not for me, at least.
Any other stories?
No, I think that's it for me. You guys got anything
if we're
else?
just on the open form of things, what were
Yeah.
you saying about, was it BitMEX that's delisting a bunch of coins? I think
Oh, it was Bittrex.
Bittrex.
Bittrex. Actually, I've used them
I use
before.
Bittrex a lot, actually. Yeah.
BitMEX is like the big, more legitimate one, right? Or is that
Maybe.
Bittrex?
There's BitMEX Research. Have you guys heard of them out of like Hong Kong?
Oh no.
They're actually
BitMEX research.
God, what is it called?
Because the one I'm talking about is
an
the
exchange.
BitMEX I know is in Mexico. Literally,
There's there's a research group out of like Hong Kong called BitMEX, something like that. I forgot. They put out some great stuff. If anyone wants to read it.
But anyway, they're delisting a bunch of coins. Do you have a list of them at all? or
Yeah, I
what is
do.
it?
Here, I'll let you take a look.
I feel like this is going to be the new story over the next couple of months.
Yeah, well,
as people,
some
like,
of them should be delisted, like because some of them are garbage. But just the same way that the coins can like shoot up in price when they first get listed on the exchanges, you got to think once they get start getting delisted, they'll really start collapsing.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, well, how am I gonna get them? Well, I mean, I don't know how you get them off. Maybe they still let you get them
metal.
off.
I got halfway down the list before I recognized
Which
anything.
one's? Yeah,
Hold
that's a
on,
good
hold on.
thing,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
they're delisting metal.
Delisting
Okay.
metal.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even know what it is, but it's
hard to explain.
I was
I
at
kind of know what it
the Northern San Diego Bitcoin meetup last Thursday,
Right.
Okay.
And there's these two guys that were there
pumping
just
it?
shilling it like
Yeah, yeah.
crazy, and I'm just like, you guys just seem so silly.
Yeah.
I almost don't trust local coins. You know what I mean? Just because it's like, okay, if you were big news, maybe I'd already have heard of you, or like, I don't know. If I heard that a team was doing really good things first, I feel like I'd already know about it before they announced a token or a currency, right? At least that's my take on it.
TIT was also delisted. Is
That's
that
what I noticed.
Bitcoin?
Dude, there's one that says XTC, and like that's like among ravers,
they got rid of
like
Titcoin?
ecstasy, like
The
ecstasy
patriarchy.
coin.
It's the patriarchy, dude. They got rid of Titcoin. Like, it's just very anti-female.
Yeah,
The whole
I was happy to
industry.
see that none of them were ones that I owned, but I guess
Yeah, I don't think you'd be
I would hope
mixed
not.
up in any of this nonsense. But I honestly think that this is going to be kind of a story that's coming down soon because, like, a lot of these things, like, the U.S. government is saying, like, we are cracking down on these. And if an exchange is still trading them, they're going to be scared.
they
They're
can
gonna
get cracked down
worse
on,
things like
get them
crazy.
seized or something,
What's
right?
great for Bittrex is they made a lot of money on whatever trading these things, or maybe they did, maybe they didn't, and now they can just get rid of them and not come under regulatory pressure. So it's like, make some trading fees here.
I don't think the U.S. government forgets that easily. I think that they'll probably still.
Oh, you think that they will? I think they just want to be respected.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
This is-
it totally depends because there wasn't really any guidance on this. So I don't know how it's going to
True.
happen, but I can see them being like, okay, well, you guys made a good faith effort. But I can
Yeah.
also see them saying, no, you guys broke the law, you're going to jail.
Yeah, true.
I can see both ways. But I know that Shapeshift also did this a couple of months ago. They
Delisting.
delisted a bunch of
Delisted
stuff.
Good.
So
I'm cheering it on. I want to see some more stuff delisted.
it seems
Less
like,
noise.
Yeah, it seems like forever it's always just been more and more and more crap coins, and this is
Yeah.
one of the first times I've seen it kind of recess a little bit.
And as like we're pretty open people, it's like it's taxing to like always. There's always this new project. You know,
What do you
that's
think of this
and-
coin?
and
What
Yeah,
do you
that's
think
where
of
like
people
I
asking
can
you about it,
barely,
right? Yeah.
you know, I can barely keep up with Bitcoin and some of the other coins that I,
real.
you know, just focusing on Bitcoin would be is a literal full-time job because there's no way you could know all the moving parts, you know.
Yep.
So like people that have bags of all these different coins, like how do you even like? I don't even have enough time for Bitcoin, and I
So-
work in the industry.
This is a story you guys probably know about already, but there was a couple of Reddit posts the other day that was not on our Bitcoin, it was like personal finance, and this guy that made a ton of freaking money in Bitcoin and then diversified into a bunch of altcoins, and then they all crashed.
Yeah.
So he ended up still, like, he started out with like 10 grand, went to like 100 grand, and then at the end of his altcoin crash, he had like 30 grand. But he owed more taxes on the Bitcoin sale than he had left. So he ended
Oh,
up
wow.
negative after taxes. And I just feel like that is going to be a fairly common story
Story.
recently.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
No. I said
Oh,
yeah. I
okay.
was like laughing. Yeah.
And yeah, I was talking to another guy at the Bitcoin
On
meetup,
personal
another
advice, the
crazy
subreddit,
guy.
personal finance subreddit, they're very like by the book too. It's not like, oh yeah, you know, if these were like transactions that, you know, were not recorded somewhere, then maybe you could like, you know, not report it. Over there, they're sticklers, man. They'll tell you to. I'm sure they skewered him. I'm sure because they every time I see him there, I want to be there and be like, hey, yeah, you should just like buy some crypto. If you
Yeah.
say anything like that, you just get downvoted to oblivion. Like they hate cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
over
they
there.
seriously
Who
do.
hates cryptocurrency?
Personal finance.
It's a subreddit.
Any
Yeah,
investing
yeah.
thing and
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
Reddit.
Yeah, because it goes against everything they've been taught.
Yeah. But I just want to say, even though I do hate all these crappy coins, it's not really anything specific to cryptocurrencies. It's any volatile area of trading. So all these people that are new to trading, when you sell something and owe taxes, put that money aside. Because what that guy did was he took the money that was owed to the U.S. government and gambled with it and lost.
Yeah.
Don't gamble with the not your money. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's whoops. It happens. All right, anything else, guys?
Nope.
Yeah, I think we covered. Yeah, we covered the mining, covered U.S. Congress, their report.
That's right. So for the audience at home, we're actually going to be trying to experiment a little bit with changing the schedule, maybe till earlier than day is what we're thinking, either the morning or the early afternoon. We might also do twice a week. We'll see what the audience's appetite is. We'll see how much work that puts on us as co-hosts. So hopefully, we do have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been moving very quickly. Hopefully, those of you who've been watching the feed have noticed the little animations I'm adding in. We're having fun with it, trying to move forward as much as we can, give a good quality show for you guys. So is that it? Yeah. So
I'm
till
good.
next time, guys, this is your captain, your crew, wishing you fair winds and following seas up. Jackson has something to say.
I didn't want to mess up
Nah,
your
go ahead, go
outro.
ahead, go ahead.
So we
I'll
have
edit
one
it later.
question from somebody I know in the
Oh, there we go.
in the YouTube stream, and he asks, what level should I trust the Lightning Network at this point? Someone I know is trying to get me to use a node that they just launched. That's me. I'm the person trying to get him to use it.
Did you make him lose some money, Jax? Is that what's going on here?
No, so I haven't made him lose any money yet. But you don't want to trust the Lightning Network with anything more than you're really willing to lose with the wrong keystroke. So $10,
it might just be
$50.
not necessarily Lightning Network's fault, just your fault. You can you
Yeah.
can screw up easily if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's all command line, so you could send the wrong command. It's not an easy GUI filtered bubble thing.
Right.
You should only be using it if you want to experiment and learn how it works. It's not trying to get consumers to come in now. The most expensive thing you could buy on the Lightning Network is $50 for a T-shirt from Blockstream. Don't put any more money into a channel than that.
Got it. Well, sounds like it's a wild time. Actually, there's someone else who asked a question too, and I was able to do a little bit of basic research. On YouTube, Lize Fair says, speaking of white hats, have y'all looked into hacking? Now, obviously, I'm on the show right now. I can't look too much into things right now, but essentially, it looks like it's a token where they are using game theory and tokens in order to try to give white hat hackers incentive to find bug bounties, to help find problems with applications and let the business know in return for some money. So, I know you guys were hating on blockchain applications, but this is one that I've seen other companies use. I don't know how effective it is yet. I don't know if there's ecospaces that have been built around it. I know Swarm.market was one that they were actually at our San Diego meetup at one point, and they have something similar where they do bug bounties, and essentially you have these hackers who, instead of trying to take your system down, if you give them incentive to let you know when there's a bug in your code that can cause problems, then they're more likely to be responsible and report it. Obviously, you have to pay them. Otherwise, you'll tick off a bunch of hackers, which is not what you want to do. But I think this is another area where there is at least the possibility of it being somewhat effective. But you're right. So even something like this, for it to be really useful, is probably still years away.
Yeah, and I've seen some really cool ideas and projects related to this. I actually kind of like the incentivizing developers, white hat hackers in this instance. But a couple of different projects trying to incentivize people, all over the world. Doesn't matter where you're at. If you have a computer and some skills to solve some problems, kill some bugs, and you get incentivized. The problem that every token has, including Bitcoin, is finding the balance between hoarding it and using it. So there has to be some type of reason for someone to hold, like investors to hold it. So it's not necessarily just because you have a token that you might not, the token mechanics and how many there are and how they're produced or whatever. They need to get that right. So I would look into if is there an incentive to really hold it, and is there an incentive to use it? So all of the coins have to strike that balance between what is it called? Holding or hodling and utility or velocity and money talk. So I don't know if that would be a good token to hold, right? I have no idea, but that would be you would want to look into that to see, is there a reason to hold it? Does it have a chance to appreciate? Just because people are using it doesn't mean that it'll hold its value, right? That's a kind of a fallacy that people, if people just use this token, well, if it has infinite velocity, which means no one wants to hold it, right? Because they don't think it'll hold its value, store of value, then it becomes useless. And the same thing on the other side, if everyone's hodling it and there's literally no one using it because it's useless, then it has no value either. So that's where something like Bitcoin and all these other tokens have to balance the incentive for holding it and the incentive for using it.
Yeah, and this is something too where it looks like, at least in this case, it's probably a company-specific token. So there is some trust there, obviously. Yes. And if the company sucks, then all of a sudden the tokens that you're using might not be worth much.
As a heuristic, because I'm not deeply technical either, but just as a heuristic, if you can sue it, I wouldn't hold the token.
That's a good. I'm glad you said that.
Right?
That's a very big one.
If you can sue it, don't fucking hold it. Right? Like it's not decentralized in any way.
What about an airline mile?
Oh well, I'm talking just in like the cryptocurrency world.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point because
airline miles.
This thing has been around for a long time.
Right? What
companies
utility tokens?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, pure. But no one's like using it as like a store of value, so to speak. It only has it's limited.
I think
it's
airline
limited
miles
use.
are tradable, and
Maybe they are. I don't know.
They might be right.
I don't
yeah,
travel
yeah.
enough.
I don't really know that much about it,
Anyway,
but you're right. The
I agree with
utility
you.
tokens.
It's not useful.
Yeah, and it isn't considered a money, but yeah, what is it called? Yeah, this the heuristic of if you can sue something, then you probably don't want to hold that token, And the point of that is it's definitely not decentralized in any way. If you can sue one
definitely
node
not.
operator, and the whole system kind of breaks down. So
Yeah, I can think of
Yeah.
some big coins right now that definitely fall under that category, and they might rhyme with slipple. Okay, so you guys got anything else? I think we've covered it all. We've already
I think
past 90 minutes here. To all the audience out there, this is your captain, your crew, wishing you fair winds and following seas. Set sail.